that. You know, I've been around for a minute. Currently, I'm on my wife's health care plan, and my stress level's a lot lower than it once was. But please think very hard and long about putting this burden on the backs of the city employees, because you know, there's some very hardworking people in this group, and we want the best employees we can have, and I think throwing another financial burden on their backs is not the way to get what we need. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate y'all.
Randy.
And there's a couple
Anyone
other
else?
folks.
Yeah, anyone else? So we hear from you. All right. I'm sorry, Mr. City Manager. There you go. I'm clicking. There you go.
Madam Mayor, I want to thank Mr. Robertson for his comments and remarks, and I don't know where he got his numbers from on the cost of health care, and it cost 18 and we had 21 budgeted, and so somewhere we still have $3 million, but I've got staff pulling the true numbers.
Okay.
So that we can set the record straight on that.
Okay. And also, I mean, and to the extent, Retha, the 17.
Pardon?
Claims costs, budgeted claims costs. It was on the slide.
Okay. I hope that the individual with the 17% of the income has come to you. You may want to get with them and just see if there's anything, you know, that we can do. So.
You say that every time.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that can be changed as far as the paycheck. You say on paper I make $40,000 a year. I bring home $950 every 2 weeks. That's about $24,000 a year. Now you want to add a 23% increase to our insurance, which is going to drop me down to about $19,000 a year to bring home. For a family of 3, that puts me at poverty level. But what you're
about
going to
the
tell me
2%
is
COLA?
I can't have it's my fault because I have the Aflac insurance. It's my fault because I have dental and vision. Not, you know, I didn't just accept just the medical. You know, you're told it's your fault because you're paying for the FOP. It's your fault because you're paying for the POAB. Get rid of all these things and then you'll make money. I can't survive without the Aflac insurance as my supplemental insurances because they pay for my co-pays and my deductibles for my medical insurance. That keeps going up. So for a 9-year veteran who has an appointed rank, you tell me on paper I make $40,000 a year. I've yet to see it. That's with a promotion, your little COLAs and little pay increases here and there. Where's my $40,000?
Sure. Yeah, no, I completely understand.
But we can't afford a 23% increase.
Yes. Well, I mean, the federal taxes and the state taxes and some of those things.
I understand the taxes.
Right. It tough. But
$400
it wasn't
a
my
month for
point to
insurance
argue.
is-
I would just hope that if there's something that we can do for you, like the 2% COLA hopefully will offset
A 2%
some of this
COLA
increase.
adjusting to a 23% increase on my premiums means I get a 21% increase on my premiums.
I know there's a 20% increase, 23% increase to us. I'm not sure that's because we're accepting 70% of that. You see, so like even
But our
though-
insurance is doubling. It's going to triple.
Right. Well, that's just what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, and really Retha's better to talk to you.
But it always gets passed off that. It's Retha's
know.
better for this, talk to this. We cannot afford it. Every last one of us in here is
Right.
living paycheck to paycheck. If we're police officers or if we're firemen, we have to work multiple jobs just to buy groceries. Well, I got paid Friday. I don't own my own home. I don't rent my home. I'm lucky enough that I have a home that I live in that my family owns. But $950 every 2 weeks with 2 kids, 1 kid in college, I have to choose. Do I pay my full power bill this month? Or do I pay for my groceries?
Sure.
Or do I buy my kid's book on a credit card with a 20% interest rate that I'm not going to be able to pay back? Those are the choices that we have to make right now, and it's not fair. And every year, it's you owe us more money. we didn't budget properly for this. It's the other broker's fault. So we expect you to pay more. Every single mistake that the budget's had, we pay for it. And we can't afford it. They're going to start walking out the door, just like they already are at the police department, to go find another agency that helps them with their pension, that helps them with their insurance. So all CPD is right now is a training ground. They come here and they get phenomenal training. They're walking out the door to Harris County, Lee County, Russell County, Meriwether County. Gwinnett's got a sign on Veterans Parkway wanting our police. Because we're not paid. None of the city employees are paid the way they should be. Every mistake that's been made over the last 10 years, we are having to pay for it. And it should stop this year.
Okay. Well, thank you. I know the taxpayers do also contribute to that. And for the insurance, we are kicking in the 70% from the taxpayers. We understand it's a burden, the 30%. We hear you. Everybody does it. We've tried to make adjustments now these past 2 years for the police department. I know that's not enough, but we're working on it. We're proposing something for this year. We'll see how far we can go. So, all right. Well, Mr. City Manager, do you have
Madam
anything?
Mayor, I'm going to have the finance director, I don't know what she's about this year, but I just wanted to make sure the numbers are
Okay.
clear.
The 18 million that was mentioned in Shaw Hankins' presentation, that's on a calendar year basis. For a calendar year 2015, for FY15, the actual claim cost was $25,684,425.90.
Yeah, I didn't think it was 18 million, and we had 3 million left, so I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's a great example of the miscommunication and lack of education.
Well, it's not a miscommunication, it's accounting in the way,
I'm not being
well,
negative.
if you want to talk, you need to come to the mic.
I'm not being negative at all.
Sure.
I'm going by exactly what was up on the screen, and in there lies the rub. We're here to all work together. Nobody's here to be controversial. Nobody's here to start any trouble. And it seems like that, you know, I think somebody said point counterpoint earlier. I'm not here to debate or to argue with anybody. I'm just here to say how this thing came, and we want it to be positive for everyone. And this is the problem right here that city employees have with leadership. And I'm going to tell you what, I love this city, and I sacrificed 30 and a half years of my life and a lot of friends for it. And I just think it's sad that we can't have a conversation without it dissolving into this. God bless you. Have a good day.
And I think, Madam Mayor, if there is if there are numbers on the board, I think the question needs to be asked.
Yeah.
Rather than make assumptions and publish information that is completely misleading to the public, and this will air 3 times a day for the next 2 weeks, or at least the next 2 weeks. And if there is a matter of information that's on the screen, and I mean, I don't think anyone around this table or anyone in this city, as we've been discussing healthcare insurance, think that we had a $3 million surplus.
Right.
And so if that was a thought, it should have prompted a question.
Right.
And so certainly I did not want that information going out over the air, and we don't mind, and that's why you heard the the HR director said we publish it on our website.
Right.
But if we had a $3 million surplus, we wouldn't be talking about losing $2.3 million.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be clear.
Yeah. And I know that the point counterpoint was said earlier. I hear what Randy's saying. You know, we do want to hear, but if there's frustration because something is believed that's not accurate, like the $3 million, we want to offer that information for the educational process, you're saying, to stop the frustration. And so we can't just be a conduit for, you know, people's frustration. That's one aspect of it. But responding and saying, we hear you, just wanted to correct this point, or that doesn't exist, or we don't do that, helps then the person move on to the next thing that they're frustrated with that we can deal with. So inaccurate frustration built on inaccurate information is part of the conversation. That's
And
what, that's the educational process.
And I agree with you 100%.
Yeah,
And
okay,
the way
I thought
you
so.
just articulated
Yeah.
it is exactly the way that I would hope that I would say it back. But
Yeah.
you did a great job right there of articulating it in a way that it was not demeaning or confrontational, and I appreciate that.
Sure, yeah. And that's what we're trying to do, is just bring information to the table for discussion. So we've heard everybody's concern. Hopefully, there's been information that's helped folks. Yes, ma'am?
I'm actually no longer a city employee. I'm just here as a citizen. I actually, recently left the city. So I'm just here as a taxpayer, and as a taxpayer, I've seen my water go up and all these other taxes are going up. And the cost of the employees is also going up. Everything's just going up. And I know, the healthcare system is really broken. Everybody's really trying to fix it and manipulate the numbers in a way that everybody is trying to get a piece of their pie. So, but I see city employees as an investment, and it's a very costly one. 70% is obviously showing an interest in preserving that benefit, those, the people that run the city. But it's the feeling and the sentiment I don't know if they're just not seeing the 70%. I know you guys would send out that paper that says, this is a breakdown of your benefits. And it would be sent with their paycheck. You're getting this much money, and that realistically amounts to this much money, and those kind of things. And that's something that I think a lot of the taxpayers, they don't see it, or they don't understand it. And I was just talking with some people that were here for the cat thing. They were here, and I was talking with some of them, but they didn't know what was next on the agenda, and they wanted to know what about it. And I was discussing, it was about essentially this affects all taxpayers, because we're paying into the city, and we want to make sure that our money is being managed properly.
Right.
And so hearing that the budget is being done poorly every year, and they're, 2 years ago, the brokers gave bad information, and so we had to come up and pay all this cash money at the end of the year, and had to do it again and again, and that just really affected the city very negatively. So they changed brokers. I think that was a good move, changing someone who keeps giving you bad numbers. And my question is, I don't understand all the health care, my eyes kind of glaze over a little bit. Why do we need a broker? Is there a way we can save that money in-house by having someone who works for the city, who's in the city healthcare system, because I'm sure a brokerage firm is very expensive. You've got their lawyers and their own health care and all their own stuff. That sounds like a very expensive thing. So is there a way we can maybe trim a little bit of that out? Is there I don't like laying people off, but at the same time, some of the easiest ways is cutting those hard cuts. And I just think if we're relying on them to give us information, they give us poor information. I'm sure there's definitely some people who work for the city that we have our own lawyers that might be able to do that. And that's just, as a taxpayer, wondering if there's a way we can cut that money out so we can save money as a city, so that we don't have this huge deficit of firemen that aren't there, so we have to call Harris County to help put out a fire because we didn't have enough people there, or somebody got shot over a cell phone and now they're dead, and now we have to wait and find someone to arrest them because we're short 100 police officers. So I'm just trying to, I know it's an investment, and I don't like my taxes going up, and it's going up everywhere. I know we talked about the property tax freeze and trying to thaw that out, and there's been a lot of ideas, and the whitewater stuff, it's all really trying to get money going. But you gotta spend money to make money, and I feel like if the citizens could see that the people wanna work for the city, and they are happy working for the city, I think that would really help us make the money, that is a return on our investment.
Sure.
And so maybe if the city has to kind of bite that horrible silver bullet, that is not the magic one, but they have to bite that to retain the employees. They don't have to retrain new employees. I don't know, as a layman who knows very little about investments, to me that sounds like a good investment. Keep the people you have so you don't have to pay new ones. That's just all I'm just trying to say is I really like to save money. I'm very conservative with my own finances, and I don't understand spending $2.3 million at the end of the year because somebody gave the city bad information.
Sure.
That's all, ma'am.
Well, thank you very much, and appreciate you being here with your precious little girls, sitting through this hours information. A couple things, and Retha might be able to address it a little bit better. One, I hate that we're referring to our old broker and saying they gave us bad information. Sometimes we get tired up here and we throw things out, which is very accusatory. I know we said that, not you, and you're just picking up on our language. The fact of the matter is their information they gave us turned out to be wrong. But they're working on actuarial data, which is assumptions based on whatever, and you know how that is. You try your best to determine what's going to happen, what the magnitude's going to be. You use market indicators, and you sometimes are on, you sometimes are off. So I hate, particularly when they're not here to defend themselves. But they were off a couple of years, there's no doubt about it. And this gets to your other point about why a broker. And so now we've got a different broker, and that broker has different information, different specialties, and different tools that we believe is going to be more in line and save us millions of dollars, right? And help us fund it and not have these surprises to us and that's the value of a broker. And we could just call Blue Cross Blue Shield and say, or somebody, some other entity, and say, will you take our business? And they'd say, yes, we will. And then, as we've called around before to say, how much would you charge us for CCG's business? It's millions of dollars more. And then we pay. So being self-insured, we've actually done what you were suggesting, cut out the fat, cut out the administrative. So we're self-insured. A huge burden goes on to our HR, and they take that, so we pay internally those costs. That saves us money from paying an entity with a profit motive having to hire people and pay their shareholders and all that good stuff. But there's some things that we just couldn't hire. We would have to have a whole department that did nothing, but looked at trends and data and went to conferences and went to schools and kept up with the medical field and the finance of the medical field and the pharmaceuticals. And so there are some times where you can contract out for specialty. And not have to assume, and I don't know how much it costs to run Shaw Hankins, for instance, but probably millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. So they go out and they do all that, and they train all their people, and they learn all this stuff, and we're just having to pay for the goodie, what they're giving us, plus their markup to cover their costs and so forth. And we're not having to recreate that wheel, so there's efficiencies there. So that's why I think, just so you kind of think about it and what has already been done, probably one of the best things, people may argue about this, but one of the best things to eliminate fixed cost was getting a broker so we didn't have to internalize that. And one thing to eliminate other administrative costs associated with health care provision was to not just farm out something like what we had to a health insurance company. Because that would be millions of dollars more, and then the 70-30 split would still be there, but the 30% share would be much higher. So we do look at those kinds of things. We do, yes.
Thank you. The other question I had was in reference to one of the council members asked a timeline question, and I was really interested in that, and they didn't really get an answer. At least maybe I wasn't distracted. But it's about when are we going to finally catch up to that? Yeah. I thought that was a really good question, and because all the big numbers, I kind of just look at the big picture because it's hard for me to look at the details.
Yeah, read it.
Okay, because I remember they were saying that. Could you?
Yeah, sure.
So this budget increase on the healthcare plan, this 23% increase needed in funding, is to catch up with that deficit and to fund the projected cost for 2017 so that we're not having to catch up again next year. So that in future years, we should just be accounting for medical trend, which is normally 6 to 8%. By putting in these programs where we're managing costs, as we've discussed today, we can minimize even that. So we're looking to the future to come back with very minimal single-digit increases once we set the budget appropriately for 2017.
Yeah, and Pam, one thing that might be helpful, and I only call him Pam because she would have been finance director when this happened. Our poor broker, which I'm sure we're going to hear, our former broker, phone calls about how we impugned their situation without them being here. But it is what it is, I guess. Is all of our 23% increase related to missing the mark on actuarial, or was there any policy decision we made that impacted? Because sometimes, I know in years past, I don't think we've done this for a couple of years, but in years past, we purposefully made political policy decisions not to fully fund, and we covered the deficit. Yeah, not for FY16, okay. Yeah, I know, like I said, in years past, that was just, we didn't want to, we were betting on the come. We didn't want to budget, we were hoping it would come out, and then when we didn't put the full 30% on our employees, we sucked it up in the end, and that resulted in a big percentage increase.
Right, we see that decision made sometimes.
Yeah.
But when we evaluated if the budget had been set appropriately for the prior year, where would that have put us going into 2017? One increase would have needed to be made. It was 7%, which is right in there with medical trend. And that's our goal, as we set the budget appropriately for 2017, to come back with something at or below medical trend, so a single-digit increase.
So if we can get this resolved, it looks like we may be at 7%.
That's the goal, is between 6 to 8% is
Okay.
kind of national trend of what you see healthcare costs increasing on an annual basis.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
If I may,
Yes, yes, uh-huh.
I promise I'll keep it short this time. I know I was a little long-winded the last time I was up here. Just to kind of go back to that $3 million, City Manager, that you were asking about, that Randy mentioned, that information came out in our first meeting out of the Public Safety Building, and I referenced that in my first presentation, and Mayor, you corrected me in calling it a raise and corrected me in saying that it's not really a raise, it's a COLA, and I understand that. But the way it was explained to us at our meeting was that it was that money was used, there was an estimation of claims costs for that year at $21 million. And then the actual claims costs came in under that. That money, that difference is what was used to fund the 2% COLA. Now, that's the way it was explained to us at our meeting.
No.
So who explained it to you?
Ms. Hollowell at our original meeting, and I referenced that in my first presentation here, and when you corrected me about the raise versus the COLA, that's where that information is coming from. Whether that is the case or it's not the case, it sounds like to me, based on, and Councilor Garrett, I think, just kind of got down to the nuts and bolts, is tell me what the bottom line is. You know, tell me what the bottom line is and what are our options. Well, it sounds like what everybody's saying is the city's either going to absorb the $2 million increase or the $2 million extra, or we're going to get the employees are taking or the city's taking a 23% increase in health care. And that's the only option. Well, here's my biggest problem with that. To just sit here and look at the situation and say that's the only option, I just can't buy that. I just can't buy that is the absolute only option on the table. There has to be something else that we can look at. There has to be another way to design this process where your city employees aren't taking the blunt of this load. I mean, I got a new lieutenant. I'm in the homicide unit. I got a new lieutenant. My first meeting, the very first meeting on that day, when we started the homicide unit, which is very new, just started 2-3 weeks ago. First thing out of his mouth was, I never want to hear it can't be done. There is nothing else to do on a cold case. There is nothing else to do on a homicide. That's somebody's loved one. I don't want to hear that. I want to know things outside the box. I want to know what people are doing in other places. I want to know what all the options are. I don't want to hear I can't do it. And it sounds like that's what I'm hearing here today is we can't do it. We just got to burden the employees with this increase in cost. And I said it before, and I made no bones about it when I was here before. Everybody knows what I make. Everybody knows my family situation. I told you what I pay for my mortgage. I don't care. And my mortgage is less than a lot of people's rent. I just can't afford this kind of increase. I just can't. I'm trying to raise $4. I just can't afford it. And an increase like this is going to force people like me and force people that, and honestly, I feel even worse for the employees that make less than me. I'm a sergeant at the police department, and my salary is not great, but it's way better than some of the employees in the city. And to think about a poor guy making $20-something thousand a year, or a poor girl making $20-something thousand a year trying to raise a family, I mean, it's impossible. You can't do it with these kind of costs. And so to sit here and just say these are the only options, I'm not buying it. And I'm mostly not buying it because when I gave the presentation, the initial presentation up here, I got some responses back from some city council members. And the question was this: I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate you coming forward, but I need some solutions. I need somebody to tell me what we can bring back for some solutions. Otherwise, it just sounds like you're whining and you're complaining. Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that. And so what we did was we tried to come up with a list of things and try to help in the process. And that's what we've done here. And it sounds like, if I'm understanding all this right, and it is complicated, that we are making progress over the years. If the studies are that y'all presented, it sounds like we are making progress. And we've been making progress with little increases over the last several years. The last several years, our insurance rates have gone up, and we've gotten a COLA, or we've gotten something that kind of absorbed most of that cost. I mean, some people would argue that it absorbed all of it, but I would argue that it absorbed most of it. And I'll be honest with you, I think most of us understood that. And most of us, I mean, we were kind of irritated about it at first, but I think most of us, accept that. But now we're going to a 23% increase that we just, I mean, we've gone from little increases to big increases, but yet as we've gone through the process of these little increases, we're making headway. So why not continue with the little increases and continue to make headway, even if it's slowly, instead of trying to fix the problem in 1 year, which is what this plan, if I'm understanding it right, sounds like it's trying to do. And so that the employees don't have to shoulder all this burden. Because I'm telling you, I mean, we are 80, I talked to the captain earlier today, he said roughly 84 officers short. And there's more coming. I mean, there'll be more leaving almost daily. Kid comes up to my desk yesterday on the 3rd floor. We call it processing out. He's got to go around to all the floors, and get signed off and all that. Kid's processing out. I've never even seen this kid before. I didn't even know who he was. I thought he was a witness in there. I started hollering across the hall at one of our detectives to say about something I'd found on a suspect, and I had to stop myself. I was like, oh crap. That might be a witness or somebody I don't need to be saying stuff to. And turns out he's an officer that's processing out. He's that new, I don't even know who he is. And that's the future and that's the trend we're establishing here if we don't stop this. And I just won't accept the fact that it can't be done any other way. I just don't believe it. I just believe there are a lot of smart, intelligent people in this city. I believe that the administration and the council people are smart enough to figure out another way. And without having to force employees to shoulder this much of a burden, because most of us can't do it. Most of us are already, as Christy, referred to, are already living at poverty level, if you consider our situation, our family situations. And we're not even the worst ones of the bunch. So I hope that through this, that you'll understand that we're not trying to cause anybody any problems. We're not trying to be confrontational. We're trying to be part of the solution, and we're willing to be part of the solution. We're willing, and I think that most of you can appreciate that we've at least tried to reach out. We've at least tried to do more than I've ever known a group to do in situations like this since I've been here. So I hope that as you get to the time where you got to vote on this, that you take that into consideration, that, you know, we need to find another way other than just burdening this on the backs of city employees. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lance. And please, we're not saying we can't do anything at all. In fact, I hope that some of the information that came out is that some of the things that you all went out into the field and tried to find, we were already doing and we're already considering implementing, and we can begin implementing those regardless of what council approves. Right now, we just can't bet it's going to save us money. But if it comes in under, then it won't be a 7% increase next year, it will be a 4% increase or something else. And so we've got a long way to make up, and we do things all year long to try and make it better and to try and save costs. It's not a stagnant thing. It's a matter of just adopting a plan so you all can meet the legal requirements of open enrollment and not have, I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, we all were trying to do the right thing, listening to our employees. We were very torn because we had to radically change our health care system at the city, and it was going to be expensive, very expensive. And it was a decision that we wanted to make sure we had all the information that we made in order to make it. And it ended up taking us months to make the decision. Push open enrollment, and as you heard earlier, cost us millions of dollars that could have been used, obviously, for other things. So delay has a price tag. And so we're not saying that we're not looking at any of the ideas you've already brought forward or the ideas you might bring forward. We'll look at all of them. We'll implement them now if they can be lawfully implemented without undue cost to you. And don't forget, yes, it's a huge cost to you all, but I hope it is some, and obviously it's not, solace that the city's picking up 70%. And so I know you're saying, you know, on the burden on the employees, the burden on the employees. We hear you. We're taking the 70%, the 30 is still a burden. I do want to, the 23%, Retha, whether you say it now today or whatever, we need to know there is a 20% increase in our health care costs for the city. 70% of that's being absorbed by the city. 30% of that 23% increase will be absorbed by the employees at different rates depending on whether it's family coverage, individual coverage, and so forth. And I think we need, because 30% of 23% would be like 7%. So, which is still money, as we've talked about. It's still an increase, but it's not a 23% increase. So I just, you know, some people don't have the luxury of time to sit here and listen to all this. Y'all don't either. But they're catching what they can. And it's, you know, it stops people's heart to think a 23% increase. And I'm pretty sure that we're absorbing 70% of that 23%. And so I think we need to, you know, and Randy said don't go back and forth and you know, but that's a classic thing of if that's not right, we want to correct it so we can worry about, it's enough to worry about at 7%. You know, we want to worry about the right thing and put our energy towards that. Anything on that, or do you want to come back?
And I'm glad you make that point,
Yeah.
Mayor, because I was going to ask staff to clear that up before we leave, because,
Yeah.
as I said, this is live and then it's rebroadcast. I've got her pulling up the PowerPoint that shows the rates as they exist today, and what the rates will be effective January for single family employee children, and you'll see the current and then the new and then what the 2% will do. And so I want that slide on the screen.
And I know also if you
And-
went from a low-cost plan to the gold plan, there could be a higher, but if you go from the current lower-cost plan to the silver plan, it's not as high an increase.
Well, that's the slide I've got
Right,
them
okay.
pulling up. And then the other point I wanted her to make, and I think she has the numbers, I believe it was 2009 through 2014, there was no increase in health care. And pardon? For employees. Yeah, you deferred it for employees.
And used up the reserve.
And then 15 and 16, there was an increase. So if they can pull the PowerPoint up that
Yeah,
will
I
show.
think, too, and that probably explains why seems like a shock to the employees that for years, we were paying this out of the reserve and not passing on the true cost of insurance or health care through the 70-30 split. And then when you run into the wall of there being no more savings account or no more reserve, you have to find a way to make sure that we're still providing health care for our employees. So that's what you see, and I think that's some of the shock to the system. And I don't know if Retha, if y'all have that.
Well, and we've got it. They just got to make sure it's the right one. But I think it's important that the employees see the rates, and because we showed it to employees, not the last meeting, but the meeting before. And then that's when we came back at the last meeting with the resolution.
Yeah.
And so, and we're going to need some direction from council after having delayed the resolution at the last meeting. And we were able to get with the parties and try and answer those questions today that have been presented to council. And, we just need some direction as to where we go from here, because I'm prepared to bring the resolution back at the next meeting so that we can stay on track with open enrollment. But if you want to further delay it because there are some questions that we have not answered, or you want us to look at something else, then we're happy to do it. But hopefully we've answered the questions today, and you know that those things that were brought forward by the FOP and Mr. Charlie Day, the things that he shared with them, we haven't discounted those things. We have looked and will continue to look at those things that they highlighted. The things that were numbered 1 through 7, I think we gave you an update on all of those things, and hopefully we've answered your questions, and we'll continue to look and at those things going forward. But when I talked to Charlie Day, I mean, he acknowledges that those are not low-hanging fruit. Those are things that you can look at over a period of time. So it's not getting ready to happen, narrowing the network in the next 3 months or 6 months. If that's an option that you want, and we certainly are going to look, then it would be looked at over a period of time, but it's not getting ready to happen immediately. And so,
And Councilor Henderson, I think, had
So
a
we'll
comment.
need some direction.
But I want to say that I read a nice note from Charlie Day. I believe he wrote to you or the staff, I can't recall, saying, of course, it was not his intention to delay. I mean, he understood, as somebody in the field, that the delay could cause problems for those who are depending on this health care plan. And I also noted, and you may want to share that, Mr. City Manager, with council, that he said it was never his intention to, cause the kind of cost about the $2.3 million. He was just doing, as has been suggested today, making recommendations of things we might be considering, which is fair enough and information we want. And so I hope that we don't delay and cause this unintended harm to our employees or to our budget, and can go ahead and move forward with the understanding that we are going to do everything we can, adopting new ideas to help decrease the cost. And maybe people feel a little bit more comfortable with our efforts to decrease the cost. Let's see what Councilor Henderson has, and then if you could, Retha, talk to us about.
No, I'll just keep it very briefly. I guess we're going to do this so that the public sees what we've been paying, because I know I don't mean to demean it, but I don't think the employees care what that is. The point is that this last increase, as much as we hate it, is going to have a devastating effect.
Sure.
I'm sure they appreciate what we pay, but I think going into this cycle, it's just plain not enough. And the issue I was going to bring up is that if there are other things we can do, we could look at things like pulling back the COLA, and it'd taken an ordinance to do it, but we pulled back the COLA, and we could eat the difference between the figure that we were given in this printout, the 2.3 and the 1.2 that we're paying for the COLA, and then eat the 1.1, which would drive us another 2.5 days below the fund balance recommended level. We could still do that. But here's the challenge is, even when I listened to what Mr. Day said, as the mayor indicated, I don't know that any of these are going to have an immediate impact. And all that does is defer that other 1 million deficit for next year to have to be addressed then. And it does buy us time if we did that. It'd buy us enough time to try to look at it, but we tried it a couple of other instances to try to keep from putting additional burden on the employees, and that's how we got where we are, where there's now a bigger hill than would have been if we'd have done incrementally. So I agree with you. There's always something that we can do. We just have to make sure that if we take some kind of dramatic action like that everybody understands where we're headed.
And always, I know when we get into the forums, a lot of employees say that the COLAs aren't a lot. They're not. Always take a COLA or a raise. It's better than having, people may argue with this, but my opinion, for what it's worth, is it's always better to take a raise or a COLA than to allow council to subsidize your insurance for that year, because your future raises and your future COLAs are based on the increase in pay you've had from the prior increases. And if they've been subsidizing your insurance, you're not getting that same benefit, that same monetary benefit. So you always want the COLA, you always want the raise. And then we can do what we can to mitigate the cost of the insurance. At least there you have choice as to the cost that you're going to be incurring. If you defer your COLA, it just keeps the income suppression that we're trying to address. Retha.
Mayor, I just wanted to mention in terms of the premium increases annually, and maybe that helps a little bit explain why this is such a shock here. But from 2009, the employee-only premium was $42. That was employee-only premium. From 2009, it was the same in 2011. It was the same in 2012, $42 for employee-only. In 2013, it was $42 for employee-only premium. That was from 2009 all the way actually till June of 2014 that the employee-only premium was $42. It was in June of 2014 the increase was extremely nominal. June of 2014, that's when after council we had months and months. I remember, and I have it documented, from September of 2013 until February of 2014, it took that long for us to get to changing the premiums for employee only from $42 to $42.83. So, yeah, so that time in between, it wasn't because the cost of health care was not rising. The cost of health care even then was rising on average anywhere from 8 to 10% annually, but employees were not feeling the impact of that in their premium costs, nor were their plan changes designed. It was only until 2015, and in 2015 the premium cost went up for an employee only to $63.33. In 2016, what we're currently paying right now, is $71.02, and that's employee-only premium. That's on the HMO plan. It's a little bit cheaper if you're on the Health and Wellness Center plan. It's $59.65. Of course, if you're on the POS plan, it's $65.69. That's for employee-only premium. So yes, when we consider where we've been and where we're trying to get to make up a deficit, then yes, when we look at employee-only premium going into 2017, that being $104.65 if you select the gold plan, but then only $73.03 if you select the silver plan. And if you look at the HMO plan currently, The employee only is $71.02. If you select the silver plan, even now, as dramatic as this sounds, even now, if you select the silver plan, you're going from $71.02 to $73.03. That's not a huge change. Now, I hear somebody say, well, I don't want the silver plan, I don't want the gold, I prefer the gold plan. The silver plan, as I've said in many of these employee meetings, the silver plan is going to be your middle-of-the-road plan. It's going to fit most employees. Obviously, you're going to make a decision on your own, and that's what we've been telling employees. You think about your family situation and what works for you. The silver plan works best if you want as little out-of-pocket money up front. Your premiums to remain as close as they are now, choose the silver plan. If you choose the gold plan, recognize that you're going to pay more out of pocket so that when you have to access care, you don't have to pay as much out of pocket. But if you don't want to have your premiums go up quite as much, and think about it, when you have to go to the doctor, you got to have an MRI, you've got to have surgery, yes, your out-of-pocket expenses are going to be a little bit more. But if we're just talking about premiums, keeping our premiums pretty close to where they are now, in your own HMO plan, going from $71.02, you'd be moving to $73.03, which is not a significant change, and we're just talking about the premium cost. And I recognize that there are other costs that are associated with it, but these are out-of-pocket costs. They come into play when you actually access care.
And then, Retha, even when you talk about the more drastic increase from the Health and Wellness Center, which I think was artificially subsidized by us to encourage people to get in it, hoping that the more people that got in it would, drive down the cost. But even when you go from the more drastic, from the Health and Wellness Clinic biweekly to the proposed Silver Plan biweekly, does that include the offset of the COLA? So what the net effect is?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's right. So
That's a good
you
question.
say,
Yes.
So you look at that, if you're an employee, and you say, oh my God, it's like $12 biweekly, but
You're
then.
going to be to the good.
Right, but then
Absolutely.
you would have your COLA offset that.
Right.
And then if you had been on the HMO and you were doing the biweekly at $71 and it went up to the silver plan at $73, you get a 2% COLA and you would actually be making more
You get a raise.
money. So,
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
not much, we hear
Right.
you, but at least we're, for
Yeah.
those folks, bettering. For the people who are going from the Health and Wellness Clinic to the silver plan, bigger gap because
True.
it was being subsidized for all those years
Yep.
that they did have it.
Right, the premiums
So-
are lower there. That's
Yeah.
correct. If you're on the
But
Health and
still,
Wellness.
the COLA would offset that jump.
Exactly, it will help to offset it. That's correct.
All right.
So that's
All right.
Well, certainly, unless I'm told not to bring back a resolution at the second Tuesday meeting, I will bring back the resolution to allow us to move forward with the plan that was approved in the budget. And of course, we will continue to look at those other things, and we will not stop having updates and follow-ups on healthcare insurance. Is going to be ongoing. I mean, it's something that will just not stop. And so you're going to hear updates, and then after you approve, if you approve, immediately after open enrollment, we're going to be coming back to you with the master plan and what we're working on and sharing information. I mean, it's an ongoing process. And so I will bring back the resolution second Tuesday, and hopefully we can stay on track with open enrollment October 6th.
October 3rd.
October 3rd.
October 3rd.
Okay. Madam Mayor, that concludes my agenda.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing further, then let's see, we've got Counselor Huff.
To this.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. City Manager, just wanted to announce one last time, the West Central Georgia chapter of the Police Benevolent Association of Georgia would like to invite you and all of us to their upcoming Blue Lights and the Community event. The event is set to take place on Thursday, September 8th at 5:30 p.m. at the Columbus Visitors Center located at number 11 9th Street in Columbus.
So Thursday, September 8th at 5 p.m.,
5:30.
5:30. I think I have this
Number
invitation.
11 9th Street, which is the downstairs there by the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Yeah, okay, great.
And we can certainly put that on our upcoming events and on the website and CCGTV.
Thank you.
All right, great. If there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we are adjourned. Next time will be a proclamation resolution session. Thank you all.